Good morning. Welcome to the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee number 7 of 2021, the 5th of August 2021. And I am looking around our virtual room and I can see that all members are in attendance. This meeting is being held virtually and streamed publicly in accordance with the COVID provisions of sections 277B, C and D of the Local Government Regulation 2012. We have no apologies. Does anyone have any declarations of interest in matters on the agenda today? No. We have nil business outstanding. So we might move straight into item 1 on the agenda, which is the confirmation of the minutes of the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee number 6 of 2021, dated 8 July 2021. The recommendation being that the minutes of the Ipswich Central Redevelopment Committee be confirmed. I'll move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Mayor Harding. Would anyone like to discuss previous minutes? No, we'll put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? And I am looking around our room and I can see that is unanimous and carried. Now move on to item number 2, which is the Nicholas Street Precinct Retail Sub-Project Steering Committee report for July 2021. Which includes status of the leasing program and associated developments with the retail component of the Nicholas Street Precinct. I'll move this item. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. Can I call on the relevant council officer, please?
Good morning, all.
Can you please state your name and position?
James Hepburn, Chair of the Retail Sub-Project Committee.
Thank you, James. I just note in our report, I can see in relation to the leasing status summary, there's a couple of changes from last month. The most notable being that we have, it looks like our first lease executed, but given that we are once again in lockdown, it almost seems like one step forward and a few steps back. Would you like to speak to that and how the leasing program is going and what the more recent lockdown may mean for our discussions with potential lessees?
Yes, of course. Firstly, fantastic news. The lease that has been executed is for a tenancy within the Eats building, which is the first phase of the retail development that we're progressing. That essentially leads it for a handover to the tenant later in September, early October, with an opening before year end, ideally around end of October, early November. But in relation to the recent COVID issues, well, I think we're having to generally track day to day what the handover to the tenant looks like and how they might resource a shop fit out team to get into Ipswich and into the unit to deliver their shop. As it stands, because of the commercial in confidence, we're unable to say who that tenant is right now, but we hope to be able to announce that in the not so distant future, along with a couple of other exciting deals that are progressing. So unfortunately, it's a bit of a watch this space as the world around us evolves. But all in all, I would say it is good news that Ipswich is attracting some really good quality tenants and that we've managed to secure our first agreement for lease. Moving on just quickly to the rest of the deal status, you'll see that there's been a change from June to July of +2. So we had 2 pending deals that were sat with the CEO for approval. They have been approved, which is great. They've gone straight into legals, and the agreement for leases and subsequent documents are being prepared and issued to the prospective parties. Those two deals are actually 3 different brands. So to explain, one of them is a leisure operator who has 2 brands. One is a large, well-known gym, and the other is a yoga studio. Those will sit above the Eats building, which is fantastic news. And the second operator is a retail services operator, known reasonably well locally and also a great national brand, and they will be moving into the Metro B building. So all in all, we're reporting good progress, I think, on the general retail leasing.
Thank you, Mr. Hepburn. And just confirmation for residents that might be visiting the Nicholas Street precinct and can see construction going on. If you are heading down the Nicholas Street precinct from Brisbane Street, on the left, the construction there is Eats, is that correct? And then further down on the right is our Metro B building under construction.
Yes, indeed it is. And they are very much our development, delivery, construction names. I suspect as we move forwards, as you were walking down on the left-hand side, those properties will just fall into the Nicholas Street precinct naming, and then will be known as their numbering and the brand that sits within that property. Mm-hmm. The Metro element, again, is broken into 2. Metro's A and B is the phase that we're delivering, which essentially faces onto the Union Place and the Commonwealth Hotel. And we're yet to decide really whether we continue with the name Metro or we think of something else for the mall that links across to the train station from there.
Thank you, Mr. Hepburn. Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Hepburn? Thank you,
Chair. Mr. Hepburn, I know that the cinema operator tender closed yesterday. Are you able to let us know if we received any, and if so, what kind of response we received?
Yes, I can talk to it. It closed yesterday, which was a 2-week delay on the original closure date, and that was due to, I believe, a couple of parties requesting an extension relating mainly to operational issues, whereby as we moved into another lockdown, certainly more severely in New South Wales, cinema operators are having to close some of their cinemas around the country. So the focus on parts of the business has to change. So we took that on board and allowed 2 extra weeks for the submissions to come in. It's difficult for me to say a huge amount as I have not been made aware of a lot of what's going on by our procurement team, but I am advised that all shortlisted parties have submitted offers, which I personally think is absolutely fantastic news. So I think along with many others, and I'm sure we'll eagerly await our procurement colleagues to process these submissions and advise on their conformity, which will allow our team to then assess them all and hopefully bring some good news back in due course.
So we've had multiple submissions to the tender?
I believe we've had, certainly had multiple submissions, and that is that all parties that had entered through the RI stage, I believe, have provided a submission of one form or another.
Right. And are you able, again, if it's commercially in confidence, I'm not expecting you to answer, but a status on the leasing of the Commonwealth Hotel? Are you able to speak to that?
Yes, absolutely. Commonwealth Hotel is actually going very well. We've spent quite a bit of time working on the extension drawings and what that looks like. We've had pre-development application discussions with our colleagues in planning and the heritage sides of the council. And generally speaking, we're building up to submitting a DA, I believe, in the coming weeks. So that side of it progresses well. The agreement for lease has also progressed quite well in discussions with both the representatives on the legal team. So we're really looking to close that down quite quickly and get the DA submitted.
Yes. And moving away from leasing, even though that's obviously the main game, I see in the sub-project steering committee, the retail sub-project steering committee, looking at putting additional water bubblers in Tulma Place. Whereabouts are we looking at putting those?
It was a point raised by Councillor Doyle. Essentially, I think we only have one water bubbler within the precinct, and what we're now looking at doing is seeing whether we can add another couple in, particularly relating around to the children's library and providing that extra resource there. It is somewhat dependent on where the water elements lie underneath the Tulma Place. So there's a bit more design work to go on to really pin down the appropriate locations where we can actually get the water supply into the bubblers. So we haven't actually landed on locations, but we'll be able to advise when we can.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hepburn.
No other questions? Thank you, Mr. Hepburn.
No, thank you.
Now open up for discussion. Would anyone like to have any further discussion?
Should we move in second and then go discussion?
Did I not do that?
No, you did. My apologies.
I did, yeah.
Yes, my apologies. No, I mean, I know the passion that you have for this, Councillor Doyle, and how much you drive this project and this current lockdown. It's good to see progress happening. It's pleasing to see that progress happening.
Absolutely. And, I know we are all passionate here at Council about the success of this project. When we think about the bigger infrastructure, that the city's trying to secure funding for, including the Ipswich to Springfield rail line, without a thriving CBD within Ipswich, it will be very hard to advocate and be successful for the extension of that train line. So, just as importantly, local families are, small businesses are the heart and soul of our community, and a lot have businesses within our CBD. So there's a lot riding on this project. And I, like, everyone, I guess, a little bit frustrated with the pace that things are progressing, but this is a very difficult economic environment that we're in at the moment, and the market keeps shifting in relation to negotiations with prospective tenants as to who's got the bargaining power and what the expectations are around capital incentives, for instance. So it is a constant moving feast, and I applaud our team for staying on track and securing prospective tenants. So let's hope as the nation moves towards, good vaccination numbers, lockdowns are no longer a regular thing, and our retailers can get back to doing what they do. If there's no further discussion, we'll put the matter to the vote. All those in favour?
I think Councillor Milligan.
Sorry, sorry, your virtual hand is up.
Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Milligan.
It's probably good to note as well that in June, Westmoreton Hospital and Health Services did relocate the vaccination centre to the top end of Nicholas Street, and with that intention to the benefit that is derived for Nicholas Street Precinct is the additional foot traffic that would also bring in, and it is a win-win for both parties. I saw in that it's far more easily accessible and a centralised location for that facility. So I do commend that the gaining of that was definitely a very good outcome.
Agreed. Thank you, Councillor Milligan. If there's nothing further, we'll put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Looking around our virtual room, I can see that everyone's in favour and unanimous and carried. move on now to our third and final item on the agenda, which is the Nicholas Street Precinct Communications Engagement and Events Report from July 2021. The recommendation being that the Nicholas Street Precinct Comms Engagement and Events Monthly Report just be received and contents noted. I will move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Kunzelman. Would anyone like to speak to the relevant council officers in relation to this report? No? Thank you. We might go straight into discussion. Anyone have any comments? Thank you, Mayor.
If I may, Chair, just and obviously COVID has had an impact, but before that, the Tokyo Live, the Olympics was very popular, and seeing people come to the Toowoomba Place has been fantastic. And noting that as part of our galvanised festival that's coming up, we're going to have bikes, beards, and barbecue event on the 5th of September in at Toowoomba Place as well as the Historical Motorcycle Club of Queensland. So we do have an active program in there, but obviously we'll continue to follow the directions of the Chief Health Officer.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Mayor. It certainly during the live streaming of the Tokyo Olympics, it's been wonderful to be down in Toowoomba Place and just seeing residents use the space and how it's activated, and it's been a great success. Obviously, we'd like to see some greater numbers there, but in the current COVID environment, and as we're still trying to move forward and bring some additional tenants to the precinct that will attract some extra foot traffic, it's a work in progress. But I'm delighted so far just to see everyone using the space. On one particular day, we had a school down there visiting. All the students were playing some of the sports, the tennis table that was set up. We had a kindergarten there. They were visiting the children's library, and people just generally sitting on the grass and having a lovely time in our new civic space. So I'm just delighted. There's no further comments. We might put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Look around, I can see that is unanimous and carried. So that brings us to the end of items on the agenda. We have no notices of motion, no matters arising. So I will declare the meeting closed at 11:30 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.